Hi everyone, Dr. Victoria Scorpio here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. And I want to talk today about the Astrology and Kabbalah of November 2019. And as we do every month, we take the monthly vibration. November is the 11th month, and so it has its own sort of vibration. 11, of course, is a master number. It's master spiritual teacher vibration. And it is associated with the Justice card. And the Justice card is associated with more than man's justice, of which it is also associated with. It's associated with cosmic justice. And so we have that vibration. And then we also have the yearly vibration. And the yearly vibration, I'm trying to do, okay, so let's just stop touching it. The yearly the yearly vibration for 2019 is a 12-3 vibration, which is this card in the tarot, the Hanged Man. And of course, we've spent an awful lot of time this year feeling like we've been hung out to dry. The Hanged Man is really about having to bear witness, to look at things from a different perspective, to understand what you can affect and change and endeavor to do so, and what you can't change and accept or surrender to. This is a card of surrender. It can be a card of feeling like you're in limbo. But as you can see here, this gentleman has a halo around his head. And so it's also about being connected to cosmic consciousness. And quite frankly, I think if we did not have that connection to cosmic consciousness, many of us probably wouldn't have made it as well as we did through this year. It's been very difficult. There's been a lot of very bitter pills that I'm sure many of us have felt like we've had to swallow as we witnessed things that were precious to us being eroded, being damaged, being hurt, wounds being brought up. But of course, as you are probably aware of, and anybody who's a healer is aware of, if you don't feel it, you can't heal it. If you don't see it, you can't work with it, right? So there's a lot of things that we've had to see, and this is the 11 vibration. So these are the two vibrations. 11 monthly, 12 yearly. If we add those up, we get a 23-5 vibration. And the 23-5 vibration in the tarot is this vibration right here. It's the King of Wands. It is a 5 vibration. A 5 is about change. Okay. This King of Wands is associated with the sign of Aries. And so Aries is a very, it's a sign associated with initiating something new. It's about courage. It's about stepping into something new, something sort of unknown. It is a cardinal sign. And so on a certain level, there's this energy of new beginnings with this month because of its connection to this. This is the King of Wands, the King of Wands. Kings are about agency. Kings are about dominion. And wands are about spirit and creativity. And so this can be a highly creative time. It's a time when you take your wand of sort of power and endeavor to create. Now, the last time we were in this vibration was December of 2018. The time before that we were actually in this vibration was December of 2009. And the time before that we were actually in this vibration was 19... I wrote it down. I did the math. I usually say, I didn't do the math, but this time I did the math. The last time we were in this vibration before 2009 was 1993. We actually were in this vibration as a yearly plus monthly vibration. So it's unusual that we're in this vibration. It doesn't come every year. And it is in a place on the Tree of Life called Hokmah. And Hokmah is associated with the divine masculine. It is the yang force, yang, right? It is force. It is a place where all is light. And so when we're in Hokmah, we are sort of blinded by the light, actually. And so things are going to be illuminated big time, but we may not be able to discern what it is because it's such a shock to the system. And when we look at it, when we look at the Tree of Life, which is behind me here, can you see this? Yes. Okay, so we have November of 2019 right up here in Hokmah. Okay, Kether is the first Sephiroth. That's the Sephiroth means circle. Hokmah is the second. Bina is the third. Now, December, we're going to be going into Bina, and we haven't been in Bina since 1994. 1999 was the last time we were in Bina, I believe. But we'll talk about that in December because it's very, very significant. Okay, so we're in Hokmah. Hokmah, the word Hokmah means wisdom. And so last month we were in a 22 vibration. That was right here. That was the Fool card. Okay, that was being. It was associated with the planet Uranus, and so there was sudden shocks. Things came up very suddenly that changed everything. It's also the energy of spirit coming down into from unity into divine masculine, and then in December we're moving into the energy of the divine feminine. Energetically, this is all located in the third eye, and so this is a time of or an opportunity to utilize your psychic or intuitive sense. Okay, Aries is a very intuitive energy. In fact, Aries pretty much goes through instinct and intuition, and of course, fire is like that. We also, because it's a fire vibration, we will probably see more fires. There's other stuff going on this month that can bring that up as well. So I think the wildfires will continue to be a problem this month. All right, so let's see. I always look to see what the relationship of the vibration is to what's going on in the month. And in this case, we're looking at the sign of Aries. Now, there's two things in Aries. We have Chiron in Aries. It's at the very beginning of Aries. Chiron in Aries is our wounds around our identity, our rights to breathe air, just to live, because Aries is about the I am. And people who have a Chiron in Aries have wounds around their very existence. It is about identity. Being the I am energy, it's like I am, and whatever it is that you say, there can be wounds around that. So I am a healer, or I am transgender, or I am a woman in a man's body, or I'm a man in a woman's body, or these kind of things can come up. Any kind of wound around identity. And we certainly kind of see it in the identity politics stuff too, which is interesting. How the identity almost overcomes what the person is actually trying to create, or to do, or to change. But this is not a political thing, so I won't bring too much politics into it. But I just thought that was interesting. It sort of popped into my head. So we have Chiron in Aries. And this month, it's right around 2 degrees. It is retrograde, Chiron in Aries right now. And so we're dealing with that. So identity will be... And then we also have the wounds around the toxic masculine. We have wounds around our ability to assert ourselves. These are all kind of Aries things that we can sort of come... And these become issues for us. And the other thing that's in Aries is Eris. And Eris is really the 10th planet. We're including Pluto as a planet, by the way. And Eris is the goddess of discord. And Eris has been in Aries since the 20s. And she's in Aries for a really long time. And she's right about 23 degrees of Aries now, 23, 24 degrees of Aries. And it's very significant because the Pluto-Saturn conjunction in January of 2020 is right around that degree, but it's in Capricorn. And so we have a square between Eris and Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn. And Eris is a feminine goddess, a feminine energy. She's pissed off. She utilizes the powerful's vanity against them. She tends to create problems in polite society. She's a rebel, and she's an instigator. And so that energy is out there as well at this time. So these are two energies that are in Aries right now, and she will continue to be in Aries for a long time. So that's not really stopping. Eris was discovered, I think it was in 2003, and 2003, for those of you who don't remember, was when we went into the Iraq War. It was also, Mars was retrograde that year, and the closest it was to the Earth in like thousands of years. So it was a very martial time, and this is when Eris was discovered. So it has to do with all of this wounding around our militaristic way of being. And so these are some of the issues that come up in November. Now, November, for the most part, has the sun in Scorpio, and so Scorpio is about death and rebirth, transformation. When the sun is in Scorpio, the veil between the living and the dead is thin. Scorpio is coming up against forces greater than self, and so there can be this sense of powerlessness, or on the other side, great power with Scorpio. But ultimately, Scorpio is the energy of the personality or the ego surrendering to the soul. Because quite frankly, the soul is in control, whether we know it or not. And most of the time, the soul is unconscious for us. The only time we really seem to get a hold of it for most people is when we have to surrender to it. And of course, because we're in a 12-3 vibration, for most of the year, we've had to surrender to our own souls over and over and over again. So we've had plenty of practice with that. Mercury, the planet of communication, is moving, starts the month retrograde in Scorpio. It went retrograde on the 31st of October. And so for the first, say, 20 days or so, Mercury is retrograde. Maybe not quite 20 days, but... and Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, okay? And so we are reviewing, our minds, Mercury, are in that scorpionic place, that place of transformation. Scorpio also helps us to sort of face courageously and look at those things that most of the other signs would not want to look at. So it's really about doing shadow work. And what happens with shadow work is if you do not, oftentimes if you don't embrace your own shadow, be aware of your own shadow, your shadow gets reflected to you by an outside force. And so if you're one of these people who all of a sudden these things are coming up in your face and you're like, well, what the hell did I do? I'm just sitting here minding my own business. That's the shadow work. And so you need to look at that. Even if you don't feel like you created it, it's still important for us to look at it and understand it and connect it to ourselves. People can only push your button if there's a button to be pushed. And that's sort of like something that comes up in the energy of Scorpio as well. Okay, so let's see what's going on. Excuse my back. I don't know if you can see this. I'm wearing my love. I have a love blanket and I have it over my shoulders because we all need a little love. Okay. So the month starts with Venus moving into Sagittarius. Venus has been in Scorpio Mercury was just about out of Scorpio, but then it turned retrograde, so it stays in Scorpio the rest of the time. But Venus in Sagittarius helps us to search for meaning. Venus is what we value and what's important to us. In Sagittarius, it's freedom. So there is a need to sort of be free to love, be free to want, be free to explore that which you feel you need. Venus. Sagittarius is also the archetype of the truth. And so there is a need to seek truth. A lot of that truth in a personal way will come from within because of the retrograde energy and just the natural tendency of all this Scorpio energy. But there's also a search for truth outside of us, and we will see that happening in November. On the 5th of November, Mars makes a last quarter square to Pluto. This occurs at 21 degrees of Pluto's in Capricorn. Mars is in Libra. Last quarter crisis in consciousness square. This is when we are questioning authority, when we are forced to become an authority in our own lives. Now, this was actually seated. I think it was 2018 that this was seated in Capricorn. So these cycles between Mars and Pluto are two-year-long cycles. And Pluto is our unconscious desires. Mars is our conscious desire. And when Mars and Pluto come together in a conjunction, Pluto seeds Mars, so the soul seeds our conscious awareness. And then as it moves away from Pluto, Mars goes out and takes the actions necessary. Now, all of these conjunctions happen in Capricorn because it's going to happen where Pluto, Pluto is in, which is Capricorn. It's been there since 2008, be there till 2024. So it's not going anywhere quite yet. But Capricorn is about power and a relationship to power. It's also about powerlessness and a relationship to powerlessness. And so there is this sort of these feelings of becoming empowered and experiencing powerlessness and becoming empowered. And this is this transformational process because it's Capricorn also. It's sort of, Capricorn deals with the structure of our lives. Capricorn rules the bones, the vertebrae, the spine, right? And the skin, and the knees. And so it's our support. It's what contains us and what keeps us standing up straight, Saturn. And so Capricorn. So Saturn, Capricorn, interchangeable. Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn, and Saturn is in Capricorn now. So we have Saturn in Capricorn, we have Pluto in Capricorn. And as November and then December and then the beginning of January moves along, Saturn and Pluto are getting closer and closer and closer to their conjunction. And as Saturn moves towards Pluto, Saturn being the structure of our lives, the structures of power, the structures of government, there's an ossification when we have Saturn. As it moves closer and closer and closer to Pluto, that which no longer serves falls away. And so there's going to be this sense of things just crumbling around you. And we need to find a way to sort of stay in poise with that energy. And so hence we have, luckily, I guess, we're in this vibration this year. And so we've had a lot of practice just watching things fall, whether we like it or not. Stay connected to spirit. And then, of course, the internal search of this time is natural time to go within in Scorpio anyway. And then, of course, Mercury's retrograde, so that's the place to be anyway. All right. So this is very powerful. This is a very powerful thing that's happening. On the 8th of November, Saturn and Neptune make a sextile to each other. This is the last of three. Saturn and Neptune are also getting closer and closer and closer to their next conjunction. I believe that happens in 2026. And so there's a lot of cycles ending. And next year in 2020, there are 3 major cycles ending and then new beginnings. And so this is so especially now 2019 is a time when all kinds of things are ending. All kinds of things are wrapping up. Everything that we need to see, we're going to see, and it's going to pass away. And then we have an opportunity to sort of rebuild things from a better place, or from a more informed place. Okay. All right. So there is a full moon. We just had the new moon a couple of days ago. It was a very, very powerful new moon in Scorpio. What day was it? Oh my goodness. This is the 27th, okay? And it was opposite Uranus, and so the big changes, excuse me. Oh, goodness gracious, sorry about that. I don't have the right angle here. So we have a full moon in the sign of Taurus. The sun is actually conjunct Mercury retrograde, and the moon is conjunct Vesta. Vesta in Taurus. Full moons are always points of awareness. And when we're dealing with Scorpio and Taurus, we're dealing with death and life, or life and death. Vesta in Taurus requires us, Vesta is what we devote ourselves to. In Taurus, we could devote ourselves to our own security. We can devote ourselves to the planet. We can devote ourselves to Mother Earth. We can devote ourselves to our own values. And then with Mercury retrograde conjunct the Sun, this is really about looking within into our deeper psychological underpinnings, sort of bringing light to the darkness. And so with this opposition, a lot of things are going to come out. This is a natural time for things to be revealed. So expect things at this time to be revealed, both within your own life and your own personal journey and in the world. So things will be revealed at this time. All right, so there's actually a lot of things happening also the day after the full moon, but I'm not going to talk about that too much. On the 19th of November, Mars moves into Scorpio. Mars being the ruling planet of Eris, this is important. Remember Aries, the Aries energy with Chokmah. But Mars in Scorpio, Mars has been in Libra. It just made the square to Pluto in Capricorn, but it doesn't like being in Libra. Mars is not comfortable in Libra. Mars in Libra is about considered action. Mars doesn't like to consider, just likes to do. But now Mars moves into Scorpio, and actually Mars is very powerful in Scorpio. And it's about, like, this is really sort of digging deep. Like Mars in Scorpio, it's great for surgeons, it's great for detectives, it's great for researchers, tax accountants, anybody who has to do deep research. Having a Mars in Scorpio is very helpful for psychologists or psychiatrists or people who are like delving into the mind and the psyche. Is also a good placement. And so with Mars in Scorpio, our energy, our focus becomes very scorpionic. This can be uncovering things, but also, Scorpio is a sign associated with death. And so we could see a lot of death, chaos, and difficult things to watch. Okay. I want to say I'm not trying to scare you. We've been through so much up to this point. This is sort of the energy of the time, and so we just need to be aware of it as we move through the month. Now, on the 20th of November, Mercury goes direct. It's going direct at about 12 degrees of Scorpio. And it actually isn't out of the shadow of Scorpio until, I believe, December. Maybe the first week of December. And so even though Mercury is direct after the 20th, we're still in its shadow We're still going over the area that it had retrograded through. And so we continue to sort of ponder and think about and dig deep and mentally evaluate things from that place of introspection. And there can be some secrecy here. And I don't necessarily mean like people are going to try to keep secrets, but when you're doing this kind of very deep work, it's a vulnerable place. So if you are going to share with people about this journey for yourself, make sure they're people that you can trust, people who love you, and who, so to speak, have your back, because Scorpio can be getting you stabbed in the back sometimes. Okay. On the 22nd, the sun moves into Sagittarius. Okay, things start to lighten up a little bit with the sun in Sagittarius. Remember, Venus is still in Sagittarius throughout the month, so that helps as well. But this is still a pretty heavy-duty month. All the same, on November 24th, Venus makes a conjunction to Jupiter. That occurs at 29 degrees of Sagittarius. And Venus and Jupiter are considered the benefics, Venus the lesser benefic, Jupiter the greater benefic, in Sagittarius to search for truth. So this is a seed being planted for just that. Okay, and let me see. Also on that day, on the 24th, when Venus makes the conjunction to Jupiter, we have an exact opposition between Mars and Uranus. Mars being in Scorpio, of course, Uranus being in Taurus. You have to be really careful. There's a lot of tension here, a lot of tension, and there is. Let me just look here. There is nothing. Actually, it's an opposition, and sometimes if there's a third planet making a square to that opposition, it's activated. There is no third planet making a square to that. What you're feeling is increased tension, and so this would be a very, very tense time. You have to watch your nervous system, watch your anger, watch your issues. If you're angry, you need to find ways of sort of quelling that anger, because you can end up attracting accidents to yourself at this time. So be very careful at that time. And then on the 25th of November, Venus will move into Capricorn. So it's out of Sagittarius, moving into Capricorn. And this is when Venus sort of puts on her business suit and gets off her adventure. She was in Sagittarius. She was wearing like one of those safari vests with a hat, with cocked to the side, and going out on adventures. When she goes into Capricorn, she takes all that stuff off, takes a nice shower, coiffs her hair in a bun, and puts on a nice business suit. She's all business in Capricorn. And she's going to be in Capricorn as Pluto and Saturn get closer and closer and closer to each other. And in 2020, there's a giant pileup of Capricorn energy that is about endings of certain things, but rebuilding of other things. And so it's a time of rebuilding in 2020. On the 26th of November, we have a new moon in the sign of Sagittarius. This new moon is at 5 degrees of Sagittarius. It is going to be in conjunct Uranus. What's interesting is the new moon in Libra was in conjunct Uranus. The new moon in Scorpio was opposite Uranus, and the new moon in Sagittarius is in conjunct Uranus. And so there's this sort of Uranus, and of course Uranus is the energy of change and sudden change and sudden things being revealed. And so that sense of sudden, like all of a sudden everything's like boom, oh my God, everything's different, is going to continue through these months as we move through the end of 2019. Let me see if there's anything else significant about this particular new moon that I want to mention. Not particularly. When the time comes, you can check I talk about this every day anyway, so you can check it out. On November 27th, Neptune goes direct, and that occurs at 16 degrees of Pisces. So those are the major changes and major shifts. Okay, I'm running out of space, tape or whatever that you call this. So I'm going to get going. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you find this helpful. Watch my videos every day for the astrology. Watch my videos for the readings. And if you would like a reading with me, I do this for people. You can contact me at my website, theseedsoftransformation.com. I'll put a link below. Have yourself a beautiful November. Stay centered. Look within for your answers, and connect with those you love. Have a great month. I'll see you soon. Bye.